Hello everyone, welcome to North Star. Today in this very first lecture of the CMA, we are going to begin with the contents of the part 2. Then we are also going to look into the contents of section A, which we are going to start today. At the same time, we are going to begin our class. But before I begin the session today, let me briefly introduce myself. I would be the faculty for the CMA classes with North Star. My name is M. Irfat. I am a chartered accountant, I am a CMA and I am a CIMA. In addition to this, I hold multiple other degrees in finance and management accounting. I have been teaching for quite long. It's been almost 2 decades since I have taken up the exciting profession of teaching. Teaching is something that is exciting for me. It excites me and I'm quite passionate about it. You must have seen the word excite being repeated multiple times just to ensure that you understand how great I feel being here with you. It is definitely a position which gives me a lot of responsibility to ensure that your trust in North Star and trust in me particularly goes a long way, undefeated, undeterred. I can assure you that I will be there with you through and through this journey and ensure that you come out successfully, because that is what I live for. Your success is where my accomplishment begins. So let's be together in this great endeavor. I wish you all the luck for this great start. I'm sure all of you taken together must be making a lot of sacrifices to ensure that you make it to the class every day. But this journey is going to be incomplete unless you back it with proper and timely revision. No matter how much hard work you put, or how much sacrifices you do to make it to the class every day on time without fail, this mission is going to be unaccomplished. This mission is going to be little troublesome unless you inculcate the habit of constant revision. As long as you are doing that consistent revision every single day, I can assure you this journey with me would be very exciting, very fulfilling and very enriching. Not just for CMA, but for anything that you plan for yourself tomorrow, day after, for any additional qualification or any professional journey. Let me assure you that this class is going to enrich you beyond expectation, beyond doubt. And with this, let me congratulate you and thank you for putting your trust in North Star and putting your faith in me. That makes me humble, but at the same time makes me more responsible than ever before. Thank you so much, and let's get started with today's session. Part 2, the strategic financial management. This part 2 has broadly 6 sections, and in the CMA exam each section carries a different weightage. We need to ensure that we emphasize on each of these weightage, but at the same time those sections which has comparatively lesser weightage are not something that we can miss out. Lesser weightage means more commitment to it so that we score full out of those sections. Financial statement analysis, the backbone of part 2, we are going to learn in great length. Corporate finance, very interesting and important chapter. Decision making, like you can see, there are 25% stress on this particular section. Very big section, but very exciting. Then we will be talking about risk management, investment decision and professional ethics. Investment decision and risk management are comparatively very small chapters. We are not going to spend a lot of time. It can be done just very quickly. Now, when we go through the entire study plan, we will take a considerably lot of time in the first 3 sections. Section A, financial statement analysis, because that is going to create a backbone of our understanding for all the entire topics or sections in part 2, because everything that we are going to learn directly or indirectly will be connected to financial statement, and we are going to learn not just financial statement but also its analysis. Very interesting. But once we have done the first 3 sections, we are going to run super fast in the other 3 sections, because those are smaller sections comparatively and it will not take much time. So I don't want you to plan that, oh, we have done just with 2 sections, and if 2 sections have taken us this much time, the other 4 sections would take multiple of that time, right? That isn't true, unfortunately. The amount of time that we would be taking in the first 3 sections is going to be more than 60% of the time that we will be taking for the remaining 3 sections. To be more fair, let me tell you, 70% of the time we will be taking for the first 3 sections, and just 30% of the time we will be taking for the remaining 3 sections. Why am I telling you this? Because I want you to plan your studies accordingly. Spend a lot of time in the first 3 sections, spend consistent and dedicated time. About the planning, I will tell you how do you need to plan your studies. Almost every fortnight we will be spending some time to see how much you have been able to cover up, where all you are facing hurdles and challenges, and we will resolve those challenges so that before the exam you do not have any problems. Before the exam you are perfectly super excited and ready for the exam. Section A, like you can see, there are in total 4 topics, and these are quite time consuming topics, great length. We are going to study each one of them. Section B, one of the biggest sections, and it has 6 topics in it. Very interesting, very exciting. We are not just going to learn about finance, we are also going to learn about the international finance here. This topic, if you have been able to understand, you can tell yourself that you have good control of the finance world. But isn't that going to be enough? Answer is, to some extent, it's going to be good enough. Section C, though the number of topics looks smaller, the length of topic, the content, the depth is enormous in these 3 topics. And that's why it covers 25% of your entire CMA syllabus of part 2. Fairly small. In fact, the smallest of all the sections is section D, which just carries 1 topic and carries 10% of the total marks. We are going to enjoy this section, but at the same time take it quite seriously so that we do not struggle at all and we are able to score the full marks in this section. Section E is an interesting topic, though the weightage of marks is little less, but this is a very interesting topic. It looks like a standalone topic, but the knowledge that we will gain in other topics, particularly topic section 2 and section 3, it is going to help. Section 2 and section 3 means section B and section C particularly. It is going to help us understand section E. So the interconnection is important and we will spend some time. But in case you do not remember about section B or C or may have forgotten something, don't worry, when we go to section E, it will be a quick recap for us. Do not miss any class, otherwise that interconnection may throw some challenge to you. Section F, one of the most important topic, because life cannot be lived without ethics. As a CMA, we have certain duties, responsibilities, and we have certain ethical values that we must comply with at all times. It is fairly easy topic, but very important section for case study questions. This is the only topic in your entire part 2 that we will be spending time trying to memorize certain content. So as far as memory is concerned, section F is one such topic where we need to spend some time memorizing. Isn't it a challenge? Answer is no way. We are here together going to memorize it right here in the live sessions. All that you need to do is just go in the rhythm, go in the flow, and it will settle here. We will take it as a challenge and I will show you the magic at play. So this is the only section where I will expect you to do some memory business. Otherwise, no other section we are going to play with our memory. We are going to be conceptual, deep inside, dive into it and understand the concepts. And I will ensure you no concept will go without being addressed, without being properly understood. The exam will consist of 100 multiple choice questions and there are 2 essay questions. There are no negative marking in this exam and that's the beauty of it. Since no negative marking is there it makes sense to make some guesses also. So you need to be trained not just from the conceptual point of view, you also need to be trained how to answer the question even if you have no clue about what could be the potential right answer. That method, what we are going to learn is called the elimination method, where we are going to learn how to eliminate the wrong answers and then spot on to the possible right answer, at least with 50% certainty. That itself is going to be a lot of value addition. In addition to this, like I said, there are 2 essay questions. The 2 essay questions does not mean just 2. Each of these essay questions will be based on certain content and certain facts. These facts will further be segregated into various sub-questions. Some of these questions will be directly dependent on the subject matter which has been given in the case study, but not necessarily. Some of these questions may be completely independent of what is mentioned in the case study. In the examination, you will not be given any Word document wherein you can type and you can identify if there are any spelling errors. So there is no option of spell check in that software. That software will look like a small mini box, something that you may be familiar with, the notepad. It will be very similar to a notepad which will unfortunately not have the spell check option. Why am I insisting so much on the spell check option? Because IMA insists a lot on the quality of spelling that you write. English grammar, I don't think any of you would have certain challenge with English grammar because you do not need to demonstrate the depth of the English that you have. It has to be professional English, subject matter, keywords, and that is more than enough. So do not feel hesitant at any point in time in case you think that you are a little on the weaker side when it comes to English language. As far as this class is concerned, my English is going to be very much on the normal side of it. I'm not an English grammar teacher, English language teacher, so I'm not going to use my fancy vocabulary in the class. But in case you find certain words, certain point to be difficult, do not hesitate in asking me the meaning. I would not judge anyone for any such things because English to me is just a medium of communication which has brought us together to one platform. I do not attach any attitude or any such thing to this language or to any such language. It's just a medium of communication between us. So please do not hesitate. Go ahead and ask as many things as you wish to. In addition to this, the CMA exam is a 4 hours exam. The first part of the window carries 3 hours and the second part of the window carries 1 hour. So if you are 50% correct in terms of numbers, in other words, out of 100 questions, if you have answered 50 questions correctly, it means that you are good enough to be promoted to the next level of the exam called the case study exam. In the case study exam, you will be getting a minimum of 1 hour, which means that MCQ part of the exam you can finish in 3 hours or less than 3 hours. And in case you have submitted the answer sheet, the MCQ, in 2 hours and 45 minutes, in other words, it means that you will be assigned 1 hour 15 minutes for your case study, which I'm sure is good enough a time to handle all the case study questions. Like I said, case study does not require you to memorize a lot of things. It needs you to know the depth of it, the keywords in it, and you should be having basic art of presenting those answers. I will keep talking about how to present the answers through my presentation. But do not expect that you can make charts, you can make diagrams, you can make tables and present the answer. Those options, unfortunately, are not there in the notepad. So every answer has to be, it's like just in a written format without any tables or charts. So that is on the safer side. You don't have to plan for all that. If you have got a basic understanding of how the exam is going to be, let us get on to the first section, section A, wherein we'll talk about the different topics that we have. We will also talk about the different stress on each topic, at least through the depth or the length of the content. So exam focus and contents in section A, basic financial statement analysis. This is not the name of the section. I have just written it here. This section comprises of 20% of the CMA Part 2 exam. And this section contains the following main topics. The first topic is basic financial statement analysis. This is fairly, if you see the number of pages, this is fairly a small topic. Topic 2 is a very lengthy topic. We are going to spend a good amount of time. And topic 3 is also fairly easier and smaller topic. Special issues are a very lengthy topic. We are going to talk about a lot of special issues and which are not covered in the other 3 topics. The first topic for the day, section A, topic 1. Alright, let's get started. Let's be a little more focused and a little more excited. Basic financial statement analysis, section A, topic 1. Introduction. In order to evaluate companies, financial analysts examine financial statement in different ways. They may create variants of financial statement such as the common size financial statement and consider other issues that may affect the company's performance. What is analysis? Basically, when we see a financial statement, there are assets, there are liabilities, there is income statement. But what do we understand? We may understand certain items like net income. We may understand something like total of the asset side, total of the liability side, total current assets, total current liabilities. But by looking at the financial statement, if somebody asks you, tell me, do you want to invest in this company or not? Do you want to lend to this company or not? To decide whether you should go ahead with such investments or lending, you need to dive deeper into the financial statement. Basically, break the financial statement into various parts and analyze each aspect of it which are relevant, which can help you take certain decisions. For example, you looked at the net income, but just by looking at net income, would you be able to analyze the health of the company, whether the company is profitable or not? Answer is not really. You need certain more data. Maybe if the company gives you information of the last 2 years net income and you are able to understand the trend of the net income vis-a-vis sales or net profit percentage, and you see that the net profit percentage has been sharply rising for the company, then you understand this company looks like a promising company which has an increasing upward trend in the net income, looks profitable, future looks bright for this company. How did you do this? You have done basic analysis of the financial statement to take decisions. Here in this topic, we are going to talk about how these financial statements are analyzed to support in our decision making process. Let's continue further. Basic financial statement matters to remember. So these are components of the financial statement. First, let's talk about conventional words that we use, and then we will get a little more technical. Conventionally, we call balance sheet. Technically speaking, balance sheet is just one component of the financial statement. A company does not issue balance sheet, a company issues financial statement. What is a financial statement? A financial statement is kind of a booklet. If you invest in any company share, you may have received a financial statement on an annual basis. What does it comprise of? It comprises of all the important documents that the users of the financial statement or the investors must be aware about. For example, the financial statement consists of the four basic components. The first one is the income statement, or what we more colloquially call it the trading and profit and loss account. In the US language, we call it the income statement. The next document is the statement of changes in retained earnings. What is all this? We are going to learn about each one of it in good length. Income statement, like the name suggests, this is nothing but something like trading and profit and loss account prepared in a different style. The income statement reports the results of the company's operations during a given period of time, ideally 12 months that we prepare the income statement for. Statement of changes in equity or retained earnings. This statement of changes in stockholders' equity reports the changes in each account in the stockholders' equity section. And what are stockholders' equity section? All those money which belongs to the shareholders, like common stock, preferred stock, additional paid-in capital, retained earnings. All these money belongs to the common stockholders. Together we call it stockholders' equity. This document consists of all the transaction exclusively with owners of the company. How does it look like? I am going to show how does statement of changes in stockholders' equity look like. How is it prepared? And in the total stockholders' equity during the year and reconciles the beginning balance in each account with the ending balance. Like I said, I'm going to present it to you. How do we prepare this? The next important document which comprises or which forms part of the financial statement is the balance sheet. The balance sheet, also called the statement of financial position. I want you to remember this word. Balance sheet is called statement of financial position, whereas income statement is called the statement of financial performance. Performance means the profitability of the company. So this is basically financial performance, and balance sheet talks about financial position. Performance means the profitability of the company. Position means the assets and liabilities position of the company. The solvency and its liquidity. It provides information about an entity's assets, liabilities and owner's equity at a point in time. I want you to remember, it provides information at a point in time. Whereas income statement provides information for a period of time. Means here it provides information for 12 months or 1 year. Whereas financial or balance sheet or financial position statement provides you information just for 1 day, not even for 1 month. It just provides information for 1 day, and that is why it is called at a point in time, and whereas here for a period of time. The next important component of the financial statement is the statement of cash flow. The statement of cash flow presents all the receipts and uses of cash of the company during the year. So statement of cash flow talks about all receipts of the company in cash and all the uses or payments of cash by the company. The formats of the income statement, you need to learn both the formats of the income statement. The first format of the income statement. So under the US GAAP, we have two formats in which we can present the income statement. The first format of the income statement is called the single step income statement, and the second is called the multiple step income statement. Don't call it single and couple, or don't call it single and double. It is single and multi-step income statement. Now, How does this statement look like and why is the name single and multi-step income statement? The following is the format of the single step income statement that includes the following sections. The first part of this format, if you look at it, it just talks about revenues, and under revenue all inflows, all earnings, all incomes of the company are shown together, and then we show all the revenues together as total revenue. Remember, this revenue can be from my operating activities or from my other than operating activities. What are operating activities? My day-to-day business operation, my core activity of the company. Those are called operating activities. So remember, under the single step income statement, I show all my revenues together, whether it is from operating or non-operating activities of the company. And in addition to showing all my revenues together, I also show all my expenses together. So total revenues are presented as A and total expenses are presented as B. Remember a very important point, the income tax expense also forms part of my expense side. Why income tax expense? Because that is important. Remember about income tax expense for now. So my total revenue comprises of every kind of revenue, whether operating or non-operating. Similarly, my expenses comprise of all types of expenses of the company, whether operating or non-operating or whatsoever. As long as it is expenses, it is accounted here. In revenue, it is not just the revenue, it is also the gain which comes here. And in expenses, it is also the losses which comes here. So expenses plus losses comes together, revenues plus gains comes together. Remember, income tax expense also forms part of expenses. These are presented as B. So A minus B is what we are going to present it as net income. So what is net income here? The entire revenues minus all its expenses are called net income. I don't want you to call it as net profit. I want you to familiarize yourself with this word called net income. And that is the word that we are consistently going to use here. From the net income, we calculate earnings per common share, or what we call it as EPS. How do we calculate EPS? For now, just remember, after net income, we calculate and show EPS. How do we calculate EPS? We will learn separately in the later part. This is very simple, what we call it as single step income statement. Why is it called single step? Because all revenues are shown together, all expenses are shown together, and in just one step we calculate net income. There are no further breakups in this single step income statement, fairly very easy to solve or to present. Now next one, the multi-step income statement. The following is the format of the multi-step income statement that includes the following sections. So remember, unlike single step income statement, in multi-step income statement there are different headings, subheadings, there are different computation and presentation. Which is better, that we will discuss a little later, but let's first understand the presentation, the format of it. We must comply with this format, we must remember this format at all times because it is very, very important. It will be used in various other topics. The first part here we highlight our gross profit separately, unlike in the single step income statement where we did not show our gross profit separately at all. So first is we show net sales or service revenues. If you see a word here net, it means sales minus all sales returns. That is what net sales, more can be there, but broadly sales minus sales return, we call it net sales. Then we have cost of goods sold. What is the formula for cost of goods sold? Opening stock plus purchases if you are a trading company, or production if you are a manufacturing company, minus the closing stock. I want you to remember this. This word called cost of goods sold means this amount has to be in dollars, which means opening stock, purchases and closing stock, all these should be dollar value, not units, because eventually I want answer in dollars. In income statement, every number has to be in monetary terms. What do we get? We get gross profit. Keep repeating with me. Net sales minus cost of goods sold. What do we get? We get gross profit. What is the formula for cost of goods sold? Opening stock plus purchases or production minus my closing stock value. We get gross profit. From gross profit, what do we subtract? We subtract something called SGA. Remember, selling, general and administrative expenses. Selling expenses, all those expenses which are related to sales. General expenses, these are not related to sales, not related to administration, but regular part of the expenditures. And then there is an administrative expenses which are for day-to-day business operations, not related to sales and does not get classified as general expenses. These internal classification is not very important here. You need to remember selling, general and administrative expenses. From gross profit, when we subtract, we get something called operating income. I want you to remember this, operating income. From operating income, we add, or to operating income, we add. Remember, while adding, we add interest income and dividend income. Both these incomes are added to the operating income. But while subtracting, only interest expense is subtracted. Dividend expense is never subtracted. Why dividend expense is not subtracted here? Because it is subtracted elsewhere. Where? In the balance sheet with retained earnings. So that is why dividend expense is not here. Remember this. Many times you may get confused. Dividend expense does not come here. Where does it go? It goes to the balance sheet. Alright? Fine. So remember again, net sales less cost of goods sold, we got gross profit. From gross profit, we subtracted selling, general and administrative expense. We get operating income. From operating income, we add interest and dividend income. And then we subtract interest expense. And then non-operating gains or losses. For example, loss on sale of machinery, loss on sale of fixed asset, loss on or gain on sale of land and building. All these non-operating gains and losses which are not part of my day-to-day business operation, but we have certain gains or losses from those operations which are not part of my regular core business operation. For example, selling land. This is not my core business area. I am a furniture dealer. I purchase wood, convert the wood into a furniture and sell furniture. Buying wood, selling furniture is my core business operation. But buying a wood cutting machine is not my core business operation. So all those non-core business operation will be coming here, but it is only the gain or the loss portion. What do you mean by gain or the loss portion? Remember, when we sell goods in trade, we show sales value here and the cost value here. But in case of non-operating, we don't show the sale value separately and the cost value separately. We subtract the selling price minus the cost, and whatever comes, this value is only shown. And this value can be a gain, which can be called profit, or a loss. And that is the net value. So we only show the net value for non-operating activities, not the sales value separately, the cost value separately, and that is why it is called gains or losses. What do we get? We get something called income from continuing operations before income tax. I want you to remember this word, income from continuing operation. What does it mean? It means that portion of the income which I have earned this year, and most likely I am going to earn in the future as well, because this income is from that operation which I am going to continue in the future as well. Means there may be some business which you may be planning to discontinue. Answer is yes. Could be possible that during the year I was dealing in 5 product line and one product line is not making profit, I may have decided to discontinue this year. So till here, whatever income that you have shown, that has to be shown only for the 4 products which you are going to continue in the future. The 5th product, profit or loss or gain or loss, is not going to be shown till here. Means the 5th product, if you have done some sales, that sales will not be coming here because that sale is, or that product you have decided to discontinue, and that decision has been taken during the current year. So you showed income from continuing operation before income tax, and then we are going to assess how much could be our possible tax expense. Remember, provision in simple word means estimation. So whenever you see a word called provision, understand we are indirectly talking about estimation only. Question is, why estimation? Answer is, we will know our exact tax only after my audit has been completed of the financial statement. Till the time audit of the financial statement is concluded, we may not know our exact tax amount. Till that time, what do? We create provision. What is provision? It is a mere estimation of the taxes that we may be liable to pay. Next, we get income from continuing operation. In simple word, this is before tax, this is tax, and this will be income from continuing operation. You can say after income tax. But we don't write. When the question says income from continuing operation, understand it means net of taxes only. After that, in case, remember, this is also called net income. This is also called net income, provided you have not discontinued anything during the year. But in case you have discontinued any of your operation during the year, then this is not called net income. You need to compute these two also. In other words, if none of the business operation has been closed during the year, then these two lines will not come in your income statement. This will be called your net income. But in case you have planned to discontinue, or you have already discontinued during the year, not planned, actually you should have already discontinued, then in that case this will be called continuing operation, which means there is something called discontinuing operation. Then only you have highlighted continuing operation. So for discontinuing operation, what are we going to show? So we are going to show two things. Remember, when you discontinue any operation, what all may happen? Suppose your year is running from 1st January to 31st of December. This is the financial year or the calendar year which US follows. Now, you planned to discontinue one of this product called Alpha. Alpha is a product that you have planned to discontinue. So you must have continued it for some time, maybe till 31st March you continued selling and manufacturing Alpha. From 31st March or from 1st April, this Alpha is discontinued. You are no more dealing with this, you are no more selling it, you are no more manufacturing it. All the old stock you have already sold it. Now, what are you going to do? You are going to discontinue. So when you discontinue for 3 months, means 1st January to 31st of March, you have continued this business. Agreed? When you continued this business for 3 months, during that 3 months, there must be some sales, some cost, some revenue. In simple word, there must be some gain or loss for that 3 months from that sale. Answer is yes. So that gain or loss will be coming here. Gain or loss from operation of the discontinued component. For how many months? 3 months. And do you have to show gross of tax or net of tax? Answer is always net of tax. Next, after 3 months you have discontinued. What are you going to do with those machinery, plant, furniture which was used exclusively for this product called alpha? Answer is you are going to sell it off. So in that case, gain or loss from the disposal of the discontinued component, whatever machinery, plant, equipment, whatever you had, that unit you may have sold it. So if you have sold it, from the disposal of this also needs to be shown separately. That also needs to be shown net of taxes. And what are you going to gain after that? Net income. So my question to you is, should this always be shown every year? These two line items will be shown every year, or only in that specific year where such discontinued operation has happened, or every year? So answer is this will be shown in that specific year in which that discontinued operation has happened. Good. If these are nothing is discontinued in that year, then your net income is going to be this line only. But in case there are some component or some part of the business which you have closed down, then these two lines will also become applicable and your net income will be this line. All right. Comfortable? Important part which I want you to remember are these two lines. One is interest and dividend income and interest expense. Dividend expense is not shown in income statement. Where is it shown? It is shown in the balance sheet. How is it shown in the balance sheet? Please, let's not jump into it right away. At the right time, when you have little more maturity of the income statement, at that point in time, we will go into balance sheet and we will talk about it in great length. But are we going to talk about it? Answer is we are not going to miss on anything. Now that you have understood the income statement presentation, let us understand EBIT, or what we call EBIT. What is EBIT? Or earnings before interest and taxes. What are earnings before interest and taxes? Sometimes these are also referred to by different names such as operating income, but technically EBIT is the best word for itself. Now, operating income. We have understood operating income. Remember the sequence. We have net sales, then cost of goods sold. We get gross profit. From gross profit, we subtract selling, general and administrative expenses. We get operating income. So from above, we have carried this operating income. From operating income, we add interest and dividend expense, or add interest and dividend income. Remember, we were subtracting interest expense, but here we are not subtracting. Why? Because the point says earnings before. Before means before subtracting interest. That is what the meaning of the word before means. If it says earnings after interest, then from earnings we are going to subtract interest. Before means do not subtract interest. If you have already subtracted, add back. So operating income, add interest and dividend income, and then further add or subtract any other non-operating gains or losses. And in case you have these two also in that specific year, then you need to add or subtract these two also, and then you get EBIT, or what we call it as EBIT. Now, next, how do you compute cost of goods sold and cost of goods available for sale? I'm sure all of you must be aware of the formula of cost of goods sold, which is good. But I also want you to be aware of another formula called cost of goods available for sale. Suppose you already have 100,000 worth of goods with you, and then you have purchased another, suppose 900,000 worth of goods. So how much value of goods that you have which you are willing to sell in the market today? You already had 100,000 and you have got another 900,000 worth of goods which you have purchased. So today you have $1 million worth of goods which you are ready to sell in the market. Suppose out of 1,000,000 worth of goods, you still have 300,000 at the end of the period. You still have it. Means, in other words, you could not sell it. So you went to the market with 1 million worth of goods and you came back from the market with 300,000 worth of goods. So how much is the worth of goods which you have been able to sell? So you have been able to sell $700,000 worth of goods in the market. Agree? Now this 700,000 is the selling price of the goods or the cost price of the goods. So if you look at the name, it says cost of goods sold. So this is nothing but the cost price of the goods. Now these goods you have been able to sell at $1,200,000. So answer my question, how much do you get and what is that amount called? So you get $500,000 and what is that amount called? That amount is called operating income? No. That amount is called gross profit, not net income, not net profit, not profit either. Technical word should be used. It is called gross profit. You remember sales minus cost of goods sold we were talking about? There we talked about, here you forgot. So little more retention has to be there, little more focus has to be there. We should remember each word as it is. And that's how we will keep progressing with more technical words, and in exam these technical words are always to be used. Let's go to the next part of the section. Common size financial statement. What does common size financial statement mean? See, when we are looking at two companies' financial statement or the same company's financial statement of two different years, I am not in a position to compare it. So what do we do in such case? To facilitate comparison of the financial statement, we convert into a common size financial statement. In simple words, the financial statement which are given in numbers, we convert into percentage so that it becomes comparable. Example, let's talk about sales of one particular year. So suppose in year 1 we have sales of suppose 950,000 and we have cost of goods sold which is suppose 756,000 and we have gross profit. Similarly in year 2 we have sales of suppose 1123,000 and we have cost of goods sold of 941,000 and we have gross profit. So tell me, first year gross profit will be how much? 950 minus 756, so we have 194,000. Now second year 1123,000 minus 941,000, we have 182,000. So by looking at this, tell me which year we have done good job, first year or second year? Which year did we do good job? So if you look at only each item at a time, for example, you look at just the first line. You just look at the first line, you will think which one have you done a good job? So you will think that year 2 I have done a good job. When you look at the second line, which year you have done a good job? So it looks like first year your cost of goods sold were less, but that is an incomplete statement because the cost of goods sold should always be compared with sales to conclude. Similarly, gross profit here and here gross profit 1 looks like a good job. Let me change certain number here and let me write here 830,000. Now tell me how much is the gross profit of second year? So second year gross profit is 293,000. Now tell me which year we have done a good job, year 1 or year 2? So looks like year 2 we have done a good job. That's what it looks like. But let's do further analysis. gross profit percentage. So gross profit percentage means gross profit divided by sales into 100. So 194 divided by 950 into 100. So we have 20.42% as gross profit. Whereas in year 2, 293,000 divided by 1123,000 into percentage. It comes as 26.09%. So looks like from percentage angle also we have done a good job in year 2, right? So from numbers angle also, from percentage angle also. But suppose this is little lesser and my cost, I am increasing my cost slightly, and from 830 I make it 880. Now how does it behave? So 1123 minus 880 will be 243,000. Now in terms of numbers it is still looking good. In terms of percentage, let's further analyze. 243 divided by 1123 in percentage, it is coming out 21.63%. In terms of percentage, it is still slightly better. Now, which is giving you a better analysis? The number of it or the percentage of it? Which is giving you a very quick understanding? The number or the percentage? The one or the two? Definitely percentage gave you very quick analysis or quick meaning. So this is what we call percentage, or this is what we call analysis. Now if you want to compare each item of the financial statement, this is number, this is number, this is again number, this is again number, this is again, everything is number. Comparing is not possible. So what we do, we will convert all these financial statements which is given as numbers into percentage. The entire financial statement of year 1, year 2 will be converted into percentage. And we know sum total or total percentage is always going to be 100. Alright. So everything will be denoted as a percentage. It should help us compare and analyze a financial statement. How are we going to do that? Pretty simple. Let's first read theory, then we are going to understand practically. To make comparison between financial statement or two different companies possible, common size, also known as comparative financial statements, are prepared, where each item of the financial statement not as a numerical amount but as a percentage of what? Of relevant base. What is that relevant base? We will talk about it. So normally in all cases my financial statement comprises of numbers, but their comparison is not so good. So what are we going to do? We are going to convert the entire financial statement into a percentage basis. These statements can be used to compare the different elements. Different elements means cost of goods sold, selling and distribution expenses, interest expenses, all these are called different elements. These will help us compare different elements of a single year's financial statement. This will also help us to analyze trends across number of years for one business. How are we going to show that? I am going to present it. In addition to this, common size financial statement can also help us compare business of different sizes. Of course, when we are comparing two different companies' financial statement, we should always ensure that they belong to the same industry. Otherwise, comparison will be meaningless. Imagine a software company, Tata Consultancy Services, is comparing its financial statement with Tata Steel. Will it make sense? Answer is no. Both are completely part of different industrial or different industry. One is a technology industry, software technology. One is a steel manufacturing, the steel industry. It does not make sense. But Infosys and TCS, they are trying to compare their financial statement. Will it make sense? Naturally, they are part of the same industry. Comparison will definitely make a lot of sense. Question is, how do we compare the financial statement? So we are going to take the help of common size financial statement. Next, compare the company's performance and positions within the industries. Through what? Through preparation of common size financial statement. Now, there are two common size financial statement. One is called the vertical common size financial statement and the other is called the horizontal common size financial statement. What is vertical? Vertical means like this, right? This is vertical. I, a capital I is a vertical line. What is horizontal? This is a sleeping I who has got very tired and went to sleep mode is a horizontal common size financial statement. You need to know this because many times I see students confused which is vertical, which is horizontal, which is row, which is column. Yes, so do not be confused. Vertical is written like this. So this is vertical. A grass, maybe like in the childhood you drew, right, grass like this, and then you drew bird like this. So whatever you have drawn grass, that is a vertical. Remember this because I don't want confusion there. Vertical common size financial statement, also called vertical analysis, makes it possible to compare the performance of companies of different size during the same period of time. I want you to remember, companies of different sizes during the same period of time. So you are comparing Infosys with TCS Limited. You are comparing Accenture Limited financial statement, all of the same year, year 1 and year 1. So you are comparing different companies' financial statement belonging to the same period. What does horizontal financial statement do? So horizontal common size financial statement compares like this, also known as trend analysis. I want you to remember this word. It will help you when you are confused. It is also called trend analysis. Enables comparison of a single company or a single industry over a period of time. Over a period of time means I am going to compare Infosys financial statement and check what is the trend of the company. Means year 1 sales, year 2 sales, year 3 sales, year 4 sales, year 5 sales, and compare this trend vis-a-vis, maybe compare with the software technology industry. So in horizontal common size financial statement, I take the same company's financial statement of different years and then see how the companies have been performing over the different time period. What is the difference here? The first important difference here is, here we are talking about same time period, here we are talking about over a period of time. Here we are talking about different companies, here we are talking about same company, different period. So remember, vertical, different company, same period; horizontal, same company, different periods. That is how we do. Now, first one, vertical common size financial statement. Remember, vertical common size financial statement, vertical V like this, I. Alright, and what are we doing in vertical common size financial statement? First basic ideas. We are comparing different companies. Alright, we are comparing different companies, same time period. How do we make this comparison possible? Now, if you look at this company, here ABC Inc., comparing its financial statement with XYZ Inc. Of course, XYZ Inc. must be in the same industry. Suppose ABC Inc. is a software company. XYZ should also be a software company, then only this comparison will make sense. But could be possible ABC has a different size and XYZ has a different size. For example, Google and some other company comparable to the Google, Yahoo. Sizes are different, but they are in the same industry. Search engine. Similarly, Accenture with TCS, Infosys with Accenture, Wipro, all these are companies in the same industry. We are comparing two different companies' financial statement to see what is better where. But number wise, we cannot compare. So what do? We convert the entire assets, liabilities, income statement into a percentage. But first, let's read it, then I am going to explain this. In vertical common size financial statement, the base amount, which is generally the total assets. So total asset is taken as the base amount. What does it mean? Every item or every element of the balance sheet will have the base of total assets. In simple word, total asset is going to be 100%. And if something is given as 30%, it means 30% of what? 30% of total assets, because total asset is a base. If you have understood this, good. Not understood this, let me explain another thing. For example, when we calculate gross profit percentage, we write gross profit divided by sales into 100. What is sales? Sales is the base amount, or sales is called the 100% mathematically. Similarly, when we say net profit percentage, net profit divided by sales. Again, what is the base amount? Sales is the base amount. Similarly, here, total asset is the base amount, means total assets will always be in the denominator while computing these percentage. Let's look into this. So generally the total assets for the balance sheet and the net sales for income statement. So for income statement, what is my base? My base is net sales. In other words, net sales will be 100% value, and all this will be percentage of net sales. And the elements within that statement are expressed as a percentage of the base amount. In income statement, base amount is net sales. In balance sheet, total assets or total liabilities, which will naturally be same, will be the base amount. It covers 1 year's operating results and states each item of the income statement as a percentage of net sales or total sales, and balance sheet as a percentage of total assets. Why does it not say total liabilities? Because we don't say total liabilities, we say liabilities plus capital. And liabilities plus capital will be equals to total asset. That's why we generally don't refer to as liabilities. But normal parlance, we know total assets will be equals to total liabilities or total liabilities plus capital, right? Now, here first we are going to take total liabilities and equity. This is going to be my base. All right, this is going to be my base, or this is going to be my base. Now, how do we calculate this in shortcut? Using calculator, because in exam you will not have so much time to compute. So I will tell you through calculator. So first understand calculator shortcut. There are many shortcuts that I need to teach you. Each one of it I will teach you patiently. You understand and practice, you will become faster and faster. But please don't expect magic in the first shortcut lecture. Alright, I will teach you lots and lots of shortcuts. So first understand, how does calculator understand a language? So calculator has a lot of memory which some of you may not be familiar with. So normally, suppose I want to write 20 divided by 50 into 100. Similarly, I want to write 10 divided by 50 into 100. I want to write 30 divided by 50 into 100. First understand, can I write this in a different language, taking all the common numbers one side? I can do that. Tell me in the first equation and second equation and third equation. Alright, what is the common number that you see in all the three? So the first common number that we see is 100. Check out, 100 is a common number on the numerator. What is the next common number that we have seen? We have seen common number 50 everywhere, right? And then we have different numbers. One is 20, one is 10, and one is 30. So I can say 20, 10, and 30. These are the uncommon numbers. right? So now understand, how does calculator understand? So when you type a common number, all right, suppose 100 divided by 50, and you want to multiply this common number with this also, this also, this also, there is a function called into. Some of the calculators will understand through just one into, some of the calculators will understand with two into. So to take everybody together, I am using the formula into. So take up calculator and type 100 divided by 50 into. Don't press any additional button. And now press 20 equals. You will get some value. Tell me the value. 100 divided by 50 into. First one 20 equals. You got 40. Means it is 40%. Without pressing any additional button, just press 10 equals. Just 10 equals. You got 20, means 20%. Without pressing any additional button, just press 30 equals. You will get 60%. You want to know the total of these three numbers. The total of these three numbers, press GT. Don't press go to, press GT. In case you have a button called GT, you will get 120. It is nothing but this plus this together. Understood this shortcut? Fine. If you have understood, good. Not understood, don't worry. I will keep telling you. Now, let's use this shortcut here. So, everywhere, what is the base amount here? Everywhere, what is the base amount? So, my base amount in this entire calculation is going to be total assets. Agreed? 1 million is my base amount. And tell me what will be numerator which will be common when I convert everything into percentage. Everything into percentage, when I convert, numerator will be 100. So type in calculator 100 divided by this base amount into. Just press 100 divided by this base amount into. Done. Now press 600,000 equals. 600,000 equals. How much do you get? So, all of you got 60. 60 means 60%. Now, next one. Press 400,000 equals. You got 40%. Now, press GT. Press GT. So, you will get 100%. Means this is perfectly done. No doubt at all, no confusion at all. Now, once again, we will start. Once again, because here also we need to do total. Why totaling is important? So that internal mistake can be fully avoided. Alright. Now, press again 100 divided by 1 million into. 100 divided by 1 million into. First one, press 300,000. Press 300,000 equals. You will get 30%. Press 200,000 equals. You will get 20%. Since total liabilities are shown separately, the percentage of total liability should also be shown separately. So you should press GT and get this value. Done. Next one, again cancel the button once again. Cancel the button once again. Again calculate 100 divided by this total into. Get this, and press GT, get this. Done. All of you are getting all these values. What have we done here? What have we done here? We have converted the numerical financial statement into a percentage financial statement. A numerical financial statement into a percentage financial statement. Again, a numerical financial statement into a percentage financial statement. Now, like I said, we should take the total assets value, not the total liabilities, because liability side includes the total liabilities and shareholders equity. So if you take the total liabilities, you may forget to take total shareholders equity. Why? Because accounting equation, if you remember, total assets is equals to total liabilities plus shareholders funds. So if you take total liabilities, this is not the total of the liability side. You may miss out this number. That is why I tell take the total assets value so that you don't do mistake by mistake also. Got the point? Now we learned what? We learned calculator shortcut, how to convert the entire financial statement into a vertical common size financial statement. Now, similarly, can we quickly convert this into a common size financial statement? Remember, calculator shortcuts, everything will remain same. If there is a negative number, just type that number and then press minus. Minus in the sense not plus minus, minus, symbol minus. In calculator it will be there. Which calculator you are supposed to use? I will share with you the link of the calculator. You can buy it online or you can buy the shop next door. I want all of you to have the same calculator which I recommend in the class, because there are certain rules around the calculator usage in the exam. I don't want you to use any unauthorized or any incorrect calculator, because you may be barred from carrying the calculator to the exam hall. So we need to be aligned in this so that we are using a same calculator, because this is one of the best calculator in the industry today with a lot of shortcut features. Next one, let's very quickly take up this. So 100 divided by 500,000 into very quickly I want the sales will always be 100%. Now if you want cost of goods sold, type 200,000 and press minus. That plus minus sign is there, that minus sign you need to press, equals, you will get minus 40%. Then 300,000 you get 60%, 120,000 negative you get negative 24%, and then you get your EBIT 36%. Now question is, how do we compare our financial statement with XYZ Limited? Let me tell you. For example, here XYZ Limited financial statement is given, but it is given as a number. Alright, it is given as a number. For example, it is given $800,000. Alright, it is $800,000. And this is given as $390,000. This is $410,000. Now answer my question just by looking at this without thinking. Can you tell which company is better, ABC or XYZ Inc.? Which company looks better? So if you look at it, XYZ Inc. looks better, but let's convert it. Let's convert it. So this is going to be 100%. Calculate this. How much will it come? So 100 divided by 800,000 into 390,000. It is coming 48.75%. 410,000. It is coming as 51.25%. Now answer my question. Which company is better? The first ABC Inc. or XYZ Inc.? Which company is better? ABC or XYZ? ABC is better investment option because they may have lower sales, but they have higher gross profit margins compared to XYZ Inc. Very quickly we compared and we made certain conclusions. It has better managed cost of goods sold. It has better profitability. Similarly, further, if you look at the question, this is 150 50,000. This is 150,000. Let's do this. So this is 18.75. And last one will be how much? So 410,000 minus 150,000 will be 260,000. So this is 32.50. Now answer my question. Compared to XYZ Inc., where is ABC not good? Or where does ABC needs to improve? So ABC needs to improve what? So ABC needs to improve its other expenses. Other expenses. Because in all the other benchmarks, ABC is better. See, XYZ has 51.25, ABC has 60%. Okay, here it is written as administrative expenses. It should be written as gross profit. Let me correct this. This should be written as gross profit. So, where does ABC needs to improve? ABC needs to take care of its other expenses. So, you should, as an analyst, go and check out what all expenses are included in other expenses. Why, compared to the competitors, my other expenses are higher? So this is a subject matter of analysis. Others also you should look in. Just because I am good, you should not ignore. You should still look into opportunity to make me better. And just because I am not good, you should still look into opportunity. How can this be further improved? Definitely this should be looked into vis-a-vis what? Vis-a-vis my competitor. How about the cost of goods sold? My competitor has a cost of goods sold of 48.75. I have 40%, means much better than my competitor. I have lower cost of goods sold compared to my competitor. So I am doing definitely better than my competitors. Alright. So here we have understood the profitability analysis. How about balance sheet of the company? So balance sheet also we need to look into each component and compare and find out how we have done a good job or better job. All right. Some of you may be confused that this cost of goods sold is only 200,000. This cost of goods sold is 390,000. So which is better? Remember, to make a comparison, we need to compare the percentage, not the amount. We need to compare the percentage, not the amount, because percentage will convert into a common measurement, which is 100, and that's how it will be possible. Understood this? Good. Note 1. Common size income statement is also referred to as income statement in which each line item is expressed as a percentage of the value of revenue or value of net sales. In other words, it is vertical size income statement. So common size income statement, it is also referred to as vertical size income statement. Vertical standing I. Common size balance sheet also means a balance sheet in which each line item is expressed as a percentage of total assets or total liabilities and equity. In case you want to say total liabilities, please repeat total liabilities and equity. In other words, it is called vertical common size balance sheet. Vertical common size balance sheet. Now, we have one question and we need to do it very fast. CSQ 1. From the following information, compute common size vertical financial statement. So I want all of you to use that calculator shortcut and type in calculator 100 divided by what? That I want to hear from you. 100 divided by what? So 100 divided by total assets 500,000 into very quickly 100 divided by 500,000 into First one 350,000. So you get how much? You get 70%. Automatically this is 30%. GT 100%. I am faster than you. Chalo, let me see who can be faster. So again I want you to do 100 divided by 500,000 into. First one 200,000 equals. So this is 40%. 50,000 equals. This is 10%. Together this is 50%. Awesome. Next 25,000 equals. So you get 5%. 100,000 equals. You get 20%. 125,000 you get 25%. Together this is 50. This should also be 50%. Both 50 should be 100%. So you can press GT and you should get 100%. Who did faster? I? Okay, if you did, good. Pat yourself for being faster. You need to be super aggressive. Come on. Let's go on to the next one. You tell me the calculator shortcut formula. What are we going to type here? So 100 divided by 250,000 into. Awesome. Very good. Go ahead. 100 divided by 250,000 into. First one will be this only. All right. So next is gross profit is not there. It is administrative expenses. Directly everything is subtracted to get EBIT. Everything is subtracted to get EBIT. Gross profit is not shown separately here. So don't worry about that. So 100 divided by 250,000 into 120,000. So this is 48%. This should be negative. So this is also negative. Administrative expenses 85,000. So this is negative. This should also be negative. Then other expenses 10,000. This is negative. This 4% should be negative. Last one 35,000. 14%. This is positive. This should be positive. Check your answer. 100 minus this should be 14%. Why? These are all expenses. Expenses are negative. Or 250,000 minus this. So when you are subtracting, these are expenses. Expenses are negative. So 100 minus 48 minus 34 minus 4, we got 14%, and that is all our earnings before interest and taxes. Next is horizontal common size financial statement. All right. So whenever you see any number inside the bracket, understand you have a negative number. So when expenses are deducted from sales, then the answer should match the earnings from EBIT. Yes, it is matching. Is it not matching? Check out. It is matching. Yes, I think before also we have scratched it out. We should keep it as administrative expenses. We have just scratched it out. We have done a mistake there. So this one could be corrected. Let's go to the next part. Next comes horizontal common size financial statement. Horizontal trend analysis is used to evaluate trends over a period of several years for a single business, and that is why horizontal is also called trend analysis, because we look at the same company over several years for a single business. The first year, remember, the first year becomes the base year, and the amounts for subsequent years are presented not as a dollar amount but as a percentage of the base year. Remember, each amount of the first year is treated as the base year, not just the total sales. So the first year is the base year, and amounts for all subsequent years are not presented as dollar amounts but as a percentage of the base year. And all the base year value will be how much? Will be 100%. In other words, a horizontal common size financial statement, also called a variation analysis or also called trend analysis. Fine, I want you to remember all these names. Compares key financial statement values and relationship of same company over a period of time. Now, for example, each year's inventory balance is stated as a percentage of the base year's inventory, and each year's fixed assets are stated as a percentage of the base year's fixed assets. Financial statement like these are also called common base year and are also called trend analysis or variation analysis. How to calculate this? We will learn calculator shortcut again here and compute it. Now, question is, which year will be the base year? So remember, if the company has given 3 years detail, the earliest of all the year will always be the base year. If the company has given 10 years, earliest of the 10 year, basically the first year in the list of years will always be taken as base year. So the first one here, year 0 is given. So this year 0 will work as base year. Now, how are we going to calculate? So all these information are for the same company. All these are given for the same company. The sales, the cost of sales, all these are for the same company. We are going to understand how has the company performed, or basically analyze the trend of the company's sales, company's cost of sales. How do we do that? In calculator, think of a calculator shortcut once again. So it will be 100 divided by 200,000 into 210,000. You will get this number. Now, 250,000, you will get 125%. 260,000, you got 130%, and 300,000, you got 150%. Now you look at this and tell me, has the sales grown for the company over the last 4 years? Answer is yes, sales have shown quite good trend. So just by looking at sales, are you happy with the company? Yes or no? Just by looking at sales, are you happy with the company? Answer is more or less yes. Not super excited, but still good. My sales have grown 100, 105%, 125, 30, 150%. It's showing trend, good trend, fine. Now let's look at cost. So cost again, 100 divided by 100,000 into 110,000 equals. So you get 110%. Next 130%. Next 150%. Next 160%. Now answer my question. Are you still super excited? Yes or no? Answer is no, we are not super excited. Why are we not super excited? Because my sales here has grown by 5%, but my cost of sales have grown by 10%. My cost of sales increase is more than my growth in sales. Here it has grown by 25%, but this has grown by 30%. Here it is grown by 30%. 130 means in net increase is 30%. 150 means net increase is 50%. Remember, here my sales have grown by 30%, but my cost of sales have grown by 50%. Not good, not great at all. Similarly, this has grown by 50%, but this has grown by 60%. So my growth of sales is good, but my increase in cost of sales is surpassing the growth in sales. Means my cost of sales growth is going to eat my gross profit. Alright, it is going to eat over my gross profit percentage. In quantified number, gross profit may increase, but in terms of percentage, my gross profit will not show great trend. So what is your homework? calculate gross profit, convert gross profit into percentage trend. First calculate in amount and then calculate in percentage and analyze the gross profit trends here. And check out how is the gross profit behaving in terms of numbers and in terms of percentage. Alright, so this is going to be your homework. In addition to this, the next homework that you have is CSQ2, wherein you need to fill these details. While filling these details, you have to ensure to look at these two numbers. Alright, so CSQ2 is going to be your homework. Tomorrow we will discuss this CSQ2 in detail, and then we will be left with some more case study question which we will solve it in the class. And after this case study questions, we will go on to the MCQ questions. Alright, so we will go on to the multiple choice questions. We will solve these multiple choice questions in the class. Who's going to give answers for all this? You are going to give answer for all this. But before I wrap up today's class, let me just make a small correction. Here we had scribed administrative expenses and wrote gross profit. Answer is this administrative expense is actually correctly written. Alright, we don't need to change it to gross profit. This is correctly written here. Alright, this is not a gross profit. Alright, fine guys. With this, we have come to an end of today's session. We'll see you again in the next class. Till then, bye-bye, good night and take care. Thank you so much.